Welcome back to another Sunday prep day. If you're new here, every Sunday I prep for the week, so that means cutting all my vegetables. And I make things that take a little bit longer, like I'm gonna make some birria today, I'm gonna make some pickled onions, and I'm gonna make some soup. And I'm gonna start with the birria, so I'm gonna make it with chicken. I have chicken thighs. I'm gonna put that in my Ninja Foodi, and I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I just have one of these birria seasoning bombs. I'll throw that in. And I'll add some water, make sure everything is submerged, and then I'll just put my pressure cooker lid on, valve closed, and I'll do high for about an hour, so the chicken will fall apart. I didn't cut the chicken or anything. I want everything to be in nice big strands. So let's just let that do its thing. And in the meantime, we'll start on some veggies. So for pickled onions, I will need some onions. I'm also going to grab 1 clove of garlic and just cut that in half and just throw that in. And yeah, let's just get started. I did make a substitution. If you want to follow along, I always post on Instagram my meal plan, my ingredients that I'll be using for this week, as well as the before and after. But I wrote down a couple of red onions, but I don't know what's wrong with onions lately, but the red onions are just not that good. So when I was prepping everything, like peeling the onions, they were very soft inside, so I swapped some of those out for shallots. But that shouldn't matter too much. But yeah, for my pickled onions, I'm just going to use regular red onions. So I'm just going to jam them in this jar, and I'll do that until it's full. So it's probably about 2 red onions. Alright, that is 2 red onions, and that filled that up nicely. I'm going to finish that in a bit, but I'm going to do all my chopping first, as always. So, next up, we have a yellow onion. I'm going to use that for my soup. So I'll get that in my soup container. I'm just going to gather all my ingredients for the soup in there. Let's just go over the meal plan. So for today, for lunch, I'm going to have some sandwiches. I usually do on Sundays because I'm diabetic, had to cut carbs. So usually my lunches are low-carb, keto-friendly, but on the weekend I have my cheat days and I have sandwiches usually because I like sandwiches a lot. So let's get that onion in there. Next up, I have some shallots. Like I said, I planned on red onions, but they were just not good. So I'll just do that instead, and I will just dice them up, and I'll use them for a couple of different things. So let's continue the meal plan. For dinner tonight, I'm gonna have some Korean tacos. So that's one of the things I need some onion for, or in this case, shallot. And I'll make that with some store-bought kimchi, some spring onions, soy sauce, sesame oil, sesame seeds, etc. Then we were on Monday. I do meatless Mondays. For lunch, I'm going to do a tomato soup, so I'm going to make that today. And then tomorrow, I just need to warm that through. And for dinner, I'm going to do some rice and some beans. I was going to say, if you saw me make my salsa last week, but I didn't make a video last week. Maybe you can still hear my voice a little bit. I'm still very stuffed up. I caught a cold or something, and since I don't really have an immune system at the moment, I'm still on immunosuppressants. That did knock me out a bit. So. But yeah, I made some roasted salsa last week. I have a little bit left over, so I'll make my beans in that roasted salsa, and then just have that over some lime cilantro rice. And yeah, then we're on Tuesday. For lunch, I'm gonna do some lettuce wraps with some chicken, and I'll use some veggies with that. So I'm gonna have the shallots, for example, some peppers, some garlic, chilies, all that good stuff. And I don't know how I'm gonna season that chicken yet, but we'll just see. So that is shallots done. Then here I have some spring onions. I found some red spring onions at the market, so I don't think they're going to be that different, but I thought they would be interesting to try. But yeah, I'm just going to slice these nice and fine at an angle, and I'll use them for garnish mostly on top of my soup, on my tacos, etc. So just nice and fine. Then we're on dinner for Tuesday. I'm gonna do some birria tacos. So that's the birria meat, the chicken I'll be making. And I'll have some vegetables with that as well. And of course, I'm gonna have the consomme to dip in. And I'm just gonna make a big batch of birria. You'll see that come back in several meals this week. Because if you make something that takes a lot of time like that, you know, make use of that time and use it for multiple things. Next up, I have a couple of cloves of garlic, and I'll just cut those nice and fine. Again, they're for my tacos, for my salsa, for things like that. And where were we on the menu? So we did the birria tacos. Then Wednesday for lunch, I'm gonna do some keto burgers. So just gonna take some ground beef, make that into patties, and I'll have that on some buns I'll make from almond meal. Some egg, butter, and some baking powder. So I'll have that with some lettuce, etc. Okay, that is garlic chopped. And then for my soup, I'm just going to leave 2 cloves whole. That's going to cook down, so I don't need to cut that. So then I have some celery. That's going to go in my soup. I don't need to cut that super fine. I'm just going to do most of these 2 stalks. There we go. That can go in with my soup ingredients. And I save these wider bits because I also need some for a tuna salad. And that's easier if I take the widest part. So I can just cut that lengthwise first and then across. That's just the most efficient way to use a rib like this. The tuna salad, by the way, is also why I need some of that diced red onion, or in this case, shallot. Let's get that in a container. For my tomato soup, I'm going to use some carrots. Just going to take the top and the bottom off, and there was one bad piece that I wanted to get rid of. I'm not going to bother peeling it. It's for a soup. It's going to get blended. The skin is pretty thin, so I just don't care enough to go through the trouble of peeling that. Just gonna slice that up. It doesn't need to be super fine. This is just kind of like my default chop that I just go to, but it's gonna get blended, so it doesn't need to be super fine. But I'm just gonna do that with this whole carrot, and that can just go in with my soup ingredients. And then here I have a cucumber. I'll just slice that up. That's gonna be for my sandwich. Then we were on dinner for Wednesday. Like I said, I'm going to make a big batch of that, we can call it birria. So I'm going to have that birria on a rice bowl with like a salsa. So I'll do that with the corn, with peppers, the shallots, garlic, some lime, etc. So let me just cut these in half. I'm just going to take the seeds out. This is not spicy, this is a sweet pepper, it's just pointy. So if you've watched my videos before, you know I like using these. I'm just going to cut it lengthwise and then turn it to cut it into dice. And this pepper is for my tacos, for my salsa, for my lettuce wraps, etc. So I'm going to take this yellow pepper. I'm using different colors just because I can, just for color's sake. But I'll just cut the cheeks off. And I will dice this up as well, same thing. Just cut it lengthwise and then across for a nice dice. That is peppers done. Let's grab some chilies. So we're on Thursday. For lunch, I'm gonna do some lettuce wraps with some of that birria meat. And then for dinner, whatever I have left over from that birria meat, I'm gonna put in some puff pastry, and then I'm gonna make some meat pies, and I'll have that with some vegetables, probably some broccolini. And meanwhile, I'm just taking the seeds out of these jalapenos. I have two different kinds. They kind of look the same probably on camera. They're both green, roughly the same shape. But I have jalapenos and these, I don't know what these are called. And I'll just take the seeds out of both. And again, these chilies are for my tacos, my soup, my salsa. So before I forget, let's throw some in my soup now. But I'll just use these for a bunch of things. And to finish out the meal plan, we were on Friday. I do fish Fridays. For lunch, I'm gonna do some tuna salad. So that's tuna, some celery, some of the shallots, mayo. I'll probably season that with some curry powder or something. And I'll have that on some high fiber, lower carb crisp breads. So that's that. And then for dinner, I bought some salmon and puff pastry. I'll have that with some potatoes. The potatoes are the only thing I'm not going to prep yet, because they will dry out by Friday if I cut them now. But I'm just going to cut them in veggies with the skin on, so it won't really take time anyway. And I'll have that with probably some peas on the side. So right now I have some tomato. Those are going to go in my tomato soup. I'm just going to cut them into chunks just to help them cut down, or cook down, not cut down. So I'll just do that to all of them. I have 4. And I know I said I'm going to gather all my soup ingredients in one container, but I'm keeping the tomatoes separate because I want to saute my vegetables first, let them soften before I add my tomatoes. So those need to go in a different container. And then for my lime cilantro rice, and also as a little bit of garnish for my Korean tacos and to go in my salsa, I'm just going to take some cilantro, save the stems. Those are good for things like curry paste. And I'm just going to give this a nice good chop, make it nice and fine. So 23 minutes in, we are done with the chopping. So I'm just gonna clean up, put away the things I don't need anymore, and then we'll start working on the pickled onions and on the soup. So while I put things away, I'll also preheat my Ninja Foodi on saute, so that's ready to go. So for the pickled onions, I have a pan on the heat. I'm going to add a little bit of vinegar. I'm using white wine vinegar. You can use rice vinegar or anything that's pretty neutral. I'm also going to add some sugar. How much you add depends on how sweet you like it. I don't want to overly sweet, so I'm just going to do 1 tablespoon. So I'll just let that come up to temperature. I'll also add a little bit of salt. jar of onions, I'll add some mustard seeds for flavor. So, and if you forgot earlier, I also put in one garlic clove for some flavor as well. So that can go to the side. In the meantime, my Ninja Foodi has preheated on saute. I'm gonna add some oil, and I'll add my veggies. So that's garlic, onion, celery, carrot, and some chili. I'll add some salt and some pepper, and I'll just give that a few minutes to soften. In the meantime, my pickling liquid has come up to a simmer, and all the sugar has dissolved, so I'll just pour that over my onions. I put it on a plate just in case I spill, and I'm going to fill that all the way to the top. And I can just put the lid on that and put that aside, and that can cool down. And this is just a refrigerator style pickle. It's not going to last forever, but you should be able to get at least a week or two out of it. So, but just keep it in the fridge. And in the meantime, my vegetables have softened, so I'm just going to add my tomatoes, and I'll give that a minute to soften as well. And now that that's softened as well, I'm going to add a bit of water. I'll just make sure everything is submerged, and I can put my pressure cook lid on. Again, make sure the valve is closed, and I will switch that to pressure cook. And that doesn't need nearly as long as the meat, so I'll do 30 minutes until everything is nice and soft. So those Ninja Foodies are just gonna do their thing with the birria and with the soup. So I'll be back when that's done. So the chicken is done. I just shredded that up, so that's ready to go. I'll use that in several meals. And here I have some of the consomme that I'll serve with it, to dip in the tacos, to go over the rice as a kind of a sauce for the liquid inside the meat pies, etc. And then my soup is also done, so I'm just going to blitz that up with my stick blender. And that's the soup done. Tomorrow I just need to warm that up, and that will be lunch ready. And yeah, that's all the prep work done for this week. I can have lunch or dinner on the table in minutes, just by spending like half an hour hands-on time on a Sunday. I'm not going to count while I wait for the pressure cookers, because I can do all kinds of other things in the meantime. So yeah, but by prepping all the components, not the whole meal, I still have flexibility. I can change things around if I want to. So best of both worlds for me. So if you like this kind of content, I do this every single Sunday. I realized I didn't do one last week because I was ill, but normally I do. And if you want to see what I ultimately eat, you can check out my Instagram where I post every single meal, or you can check out the video that I do about once a month on here where I show you everything I eat in a day for a week. So if that all sounds good to you, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Until next time, bye for now.